Excuse me, Mr. DJ.
Hey, check this out. We got a great show coming your way.
From the ECSI Sports Studios, it's the Midday Market Report with Jeff Dawson.
Good evening, sports fans from all around the globe. I am your host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and this is your closing bell for Wednesday, November 9th, 2022. I've done six shows in the last, 24 hours. And I bring back my co-host for the night shift, Scotty Webb, and technical difficulties. I mean, that is just Murphy's Law right there. And it's comical. It's been a while since myself and Scotty have done a show, and all excited to get them back and see what's been up. It's going down in FLA, and presto, bango, bungo. So anyone that was watching for the first episode, apologies. I am as dumb as a bag of bricks when it comes to this somehow, some way. I think we got it fixed. So without further ado, let's bring him in. From the Palm Tree States himself, beam him up, Scotty Webb. Good afternoon, sir.
Yes, sir. What is today? Today is Wednesday, and it's been a while, and I'm excited to be here. So I kind of like it. It feels like back in the saddle again.
I can't tell you the last time we did a show. I want to say it was some time ago, but was it Phillies Padres about that?
I mean, it might have been. It's been at least a couple weeks. I mean, we haven't talked about the World Series or the off season or anything in Major League Baseball, and the damn NFL is just a weirdo league right now, and college football seems to be where my attention is, and now the NBA started, so I got a couple NBA plays today, and there's even some college football tonight we can talk about because I got one of them too.
It's funny. I don't usually talk a lot of fantasy football when I'm talking Midday Market Report and I'm talking closing bell, but you talked about the NFL. You talked about how crazy it is, and listen, I'm managing 8 teams in some high stakes, all high stakes, and I got an opportunity to win a lot of money. And I know when I do my homework and I'm at the drafting, there's certain guys that fall to me that you got the gut feeling. They fell to you for a reason. They're just divas. They don't want to play. And I'll just list you a handful that on 8 teams I got at least one share of. Michael Turf Toe Thomas, Keenan Hamstring, whatever you want to call him, Allen, Darren Waller. And I bring up these 3 because they've been out for 4, 5, 6 weeks with, I'm hurt. And when's my bye week? And they come back from their bye week and they don't play. And then you got the concussion protocol. When you sneeze on someone, they put you in the blue tent. And because of Tua, you got to sit out the rest of the game and maybe the following week. And it's almost like, should we just put flags around these guys, Scotty?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think this is maybe the worst level of professional football I've seen in a while. Usually you have teams that at least play consistently well, and you got the Eagles and the Bills as the best 2 teams in football. Probably. But are they really that good? I mean, and the Bills now have Josh Allen as a question mark and a problem there. And, then so what does that mean? Does that mean the Eagles are the best team in the NFL? Holy shit, if that's the case, I mean, great. That's good for people in Philadelphia. It's good for them. But I don't think they're a super team. And when you start to think about, kind of where teams are, it's like what's going on with Cincinnati? What's going on with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? What's going on with some of these teams that just, can't do it? The Raiders last week, right? They had 17-0 against Jacksonville and then lose. That doesn't happen very often, and it certainly doesn't. But it seems like it happens every week now, and it happens 3 or 4 times a week. And that makes you want to sit there and go, I'm going to play all these dogs, and then you go play the dogs and you lose. So it just is one of these weird spots where the NFL is seemingly orchestrated, even though it's not. I mean, it's not orchestrated, but it just they're getting what they want in terms of the NFL and parity and all that kind of stuff. And now it's just a league of, okay, well, the Tom Brady's of the world are kind of falling away. The young superstars are getting hurt. The other guys that you want to base the league around but don't play all the time. So what's going on? It's like, holy shit, they get NFL head coaches are getting terminated, and I don't see GMs getting fired with them. So that's a problem. They got to get these guys straightened out so that the league has what we're looking for, and we're looking for good matchups. And I don't even know when the last time I got excited for a Sunday was.
Yeah, I mean, I could piggyback back off of you for a mile off of this. I mean, they were one drive away. Granted, luckily, Tom Brady's in the weak-ass division where they were one drive away from knocking out Rodgers and Brady for the season. And, the NFL doesn't want that, of course. And the fact of the matter is the younger quarterbacks are now they're looking, for Mahomes to be the face now of the league. The circle the wagons now with Josh Allen, you can just tell by the line. It's down to 3.5. Vegas is telling you he's not playing. We all know that he's not playing. And I tell you what, I don't know how to word this politically correct. I am shocked right now that the NFL hasn't stepped in and said something to Irsay about this move here. Okay, first of all, they paid for Ryan, and they just pulled the plug. We've seen enough. He's not hurt. Okay, they bring in Ellinger. They couldn't hit me or you on a 5-yard button hook. Okay, they fire the coach, and he brings in one of his puppets, his friends, Jeff Saturday, who a couple of weeks ago was working for ESPN. If it's not a clear cut, we're tanking for CJ Stroud, or we want a top 3 pick to find a quarterback. What is?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's there's going to be competition for that spot, I think. Because these teams aren't any good, man. I'm looking at certain things, Football Outsiders and how they grade teams and where they are, and the Eagles and the Bills are the top 2 teams. Well, okay, we know that, but beyond that, who's next? Well, according to them, it's Dallas.
Okay, and I don't give Dallas enough credit because I think of their pedigree. They haven't won since Staubach. I know Aikman, I'm being sarcastic here, but it's been in forever. But their defense can carry them. So you got a healthy offensive line with Zeke and Pollard pounding the ball, Dak not making mistakes, Jerry Jones throwing his hat in there for OBJ. You add a CeeDee Lamb. Okay, I can buy that. But the one team that I really think that will be there standing, that has the coach, that has a defense, that if healthy, that has a quarterback that's been there, they just got CMC, they can win on the road in the playoffs, and I think it's the Niners that is that one team that could go into a Philly and on a cold January afternoon find a way to win.
Yeah, I think that, to this point, I don't think San Francisco's been the most healthy team. So as long as they get their guys back and they're ready to go, I think that's a fair statement. Football Outsiders has them as 9th best team right now. What's interesting is when you think about what this list looks like, it's Philadelphia, Buffalo, and then Dallas, and then Baltimore and Seattle. Okay, well, where did Seattle the hell come from? And then you got Kansas City, Cincinnati, the Jets, San Francisco, and Tampa Bay. That's their top 10.
Okay, and they haven't mentioned the 7-1 Minnesota team yet.
No, Minnesota is 18th on this list. So that tells me a lot, because that tells me that the truth, when you come to looking at dynamics and numbers, and I'm not going to tell you that Football Outsiders is the king of everything, but the point of it is that when you start to look at the dynamics of the numbers, this stuff relates back to years, not just this year. I mean, this goes back, 20 years and 30 years. So when you start to think about the 18th ranked Minnesota Vikings, right, and they're 7-1, so that means who have they played, and are they really a farce of a team? Well, according to the numbers, they are. So So what does that mean? Okay, well, where's Green Bay on this list? Well, they're 21. Where's Detroit? They're 22. There's like what is going on? So they are the best in their league and their division. So it's just like, I don't know, man. It's like who's competing for the bottom spot? Indianapolis is 31st, and 32nd is Carolina on this list. So I guess Indianapolis has competition if they're trying to be number one seed.
Well, I'm going to get to the bottom of this, and maybe, I say this on my timeline because I'm just a little pissed off at this point because, listen, I'm not in nickel and dollar fantasy leagues here. We got a lot of money invested in here and a chance to win a lot of money here. I'm staring in front of a check in 17 where I won 2 national titles for $195,100. Okay. I got a chance to win over $500,000 this year. Okay. And I got to go into these. Is he playing? Is he not playing? When's their bye week? Do I need to get ahead? And I say this because there's no guaranteed long-term contract with these guys. But look at the pedigree of a Michael Thomas. Look at the pedigree of a Keenan Allen. Look at the pedigree of a Darren Waller. They all got paid, right? So I'm going to ask you the question, Scott. Unless you got a torn ACL or you're out for the year, okay, that's one thing. But if these guys were not getting paychecks every Monday because they're sitting out, their asses would be on the field. Correct or incorrect?
Sure, they would. But I would also tell you that things have changed. I mean, the how do I say this the right way? So the youth of today, the younger people of today, have different mindsets on what injuries are and what their futures look like. Back in the day when you were, 20 years ago, you played even if your arm was falling off, they just tape it back up or put a staple gun in it, and then you're playing. So they don't do that anymore. And to a degree, that's a lot safer and it's a lot healthier. It's a lot better for the league and it's a lot better for the players. It's not necessarily better for the game. And I don't mean that disrespectfully to anybody who's playing hurt or playing whatever. And I'm not saying if you're injured, you shouldn't be playing, because there's a difference between hurt and injury. Injury, you need to get fixed. But if you're just hurt and you're banged up or whatever, you need to be your ass out there. And that's just part of football. You have a car wreck every time a play goes off, every time somebody gets hit. That's a car accident out there. That's the kind of collisions that are expected to be, and that's what they have every day. So when you have that, you're going to be sore. You go through car collisions every day, you're going to get hurt. But hurt is different than being injured. And I think that some of these guys, I think there's this term that separates a lot of people, and it's called mental toughness. And I don't know that there's a lot of that in the league that used to be there for the NFL. My problem with all of this is, what's this Thursday night game? Was it Atlanta against Carolina or something? Who wants to watch that? I mean, seriously, like I would rather watch this game tonight with Northern Illinois and Western Michigan than watch that game. Because it's like, these are professional football franchises. They're supposed to have star athletes and great players, and they do, but they just are terrible organizations and poorly run. And the Falcons are actually doing something better than I thought they would this year. But that's regardless. They're still not a good football team. So anyway, I just think that this is one of those deals where there's very few matchups that you can get excited about in the NFL. And when you have them, they hopefully are good games, the Bills and the Chiefs when they played the other day, stuff like that. When you got good teams that are playing good teams and you can kind of see it, then that's kind of fun. But how many of those are there? I can't tell you there's a lot of good football teams. I mean, I don't know what's a good football team, are you basing it on defense? Are you basing it on offense? It's just holy shit. These teams are the best of the best of the Eagles, and they rank third on defense, fourth on offense, so they should be best probably. But holy cow, this is just a terrible league to watch.
I'll end the NFL with this: is that the NFL wants an 18-game regular season. That's what they want, and they want 2 weeks of buys, and they want to run through February, I guess, to March or right around there. They want to control the whole season, so then they have their draft, their whatever they call the camps for the kids, yada yada yada. Okay, and then next thing you know, it's OTAs, and we're back at it. Something has to give. Someone has to do a study. They don't practice like they used to. They don't have the same amount of pad time during the week to practice. There are teams that take the preseason, which is now 3 games instead of 4, off. And as you can
but it's
tell,
still 4 weeks.
Yes, but you can also tell that some of these teams coming into week 1, 2, and 3, the rust is shown on them. And I think the players are getting hurt more because of the lack of practice and the lack of physicality during these practices. And so they're taking it onto the fields. And next thing you know, as you said, I don't feel I got a slight tweak in my left hammy, and I know that I got to bye in a week. So I'm going to take the rest of this game off. I'll try to practice next week, but I'll get to the bye week, so I'll be fresher, when we come back. Look at this. Kadarius Toney, who hadn't played in 6 weeks, miraculously gets traded to Kansas City, and guess what? Boom, bang, he's healthy, and he's playing for the Chiefs. Golladay, same thing, hasn't played in forever. I mean, the list is endless. I call it thievery. These guys are stealing money. They sign the contract, they play a week or a week and a half, and that's it. But they're collecting paychecks. And as you said, the play sucks right now. And the NFL will cringe right now if Josh Allen's is going to try to gut through this. Well, guess what? If he's gone, the AFC's wide open, and, we were one drive away from Brady being out, Rodgers being out, and the Eagles are undefeated. You got a one-loss team, Minnesota, who lost at Philly on a Monday night, who in your rankings, not yours, but whatever, is the 18th best team in this league, and yada, it's awful. I haven't watched a Thursday night game in forever, okay? I'm not watching it. This is what they should do. They go to Sundays, play 2 Monday night games, one East Coast, one West Coast, and then start in December, you can sprinkle in your Saturday games and get that Thursday the hell out of there. I mean, it's garbage. It's garbage.
Yeah, I used to look forward to the college football on Thursday and then Friday, and then the matchups now, because the NFL is playing on Thursday. The matchups on Thursday aren't very good in college football, so they moved them to Friday, and we're still not getting good matchups on Friday. So I think that it all needs to be kind of looked at in terms of, okay, well, what are we getting here? I'd almost rather watch what are those shows where they go out and try to solve murders or something than watch this stuff. Because honestly, I mean, seriously, it's bad football. It's not entertaining at all. So it's one of these things where I don't know. It's just baseball's gone. I think baseball was a good season. There was a lot of intrigue, a lot of things that happened. Phillies made the World Series, for God's sakes. Houston wins, and they should have won. They were the better probably team of all of them. So that part of it didn't bother me as much. But then that leads right into the, okay, now we're going to really watch the NFL, which we were anyway. But I mean, now there's nothing else going on. The NBA started, but that's not going to be a distraction until after Christmas time. So I think the NFL is one of those spots where you can certainly take a little bit away from them in a sense that it's bad football, it's bad it's bad everything. It's you're celebrating punts, for God's sakes.
Yeah, and there's no consistency. We all know that Tua was concussed. He never should have came back, but since they were playing Buffalo and it was for first place, he comes back, and then he starts the next week, and next thing you know, he's out concussed again, and miraculously he's back in 3 weeks or whatever it is. So enough of that rant. You talked quickly about the Phillies. We haven't talked about the World Series, you and I. My take very simply was in July I gave out the Astros at we'll shut down and maybe down a while. It's something overloading the system, trying to track it down right now. Okay. And I gave them out 7-1 in July. So we had a nice little score there. And in July, we were talking Dodgers, we were talking Mets, we were talking Yankees. So the Astros were the better team. And you actually look about it, Scotty. Seattle probably gave them the toughest matchup. Where again, Seattle had game 1-1. They lose game 2 late, and then in game 3 went 16 innings. So hats off to Seattle. The Astros just walk right through the Yankees. And then Phillies up 2-1, lose the next 3. And, it was a tough call. I'm going to ask you this question. I haven't asked many people the question, and I hear a lot of Philly fans, especially, making the mistake of saying that the coach made the wrong mistake. Here, Wheeler's wheeling, and in comes the lefty, third time around, and the blueprint. You're the coach. You're the catcher. I'm not playing hindsight 2020 here. In my mind, he made the right move. Granted, it didn't pay off. He brought in the lefty, and it didn't pay off. If you were the manager there, what do you do?
Well, these teams that make playoff runs nowadays and go deep into the World Series or win divisions, they don't do it because of starting pitching. They don't. No. They do it because nobody can score off the bullpen. Nobody. The Astros, what do they do? Give up 1 run the whole time, maybe 2 out of the bullpen. I mean, I'm not kidding. That's how good these bullpens are or have to be. They're just not hittable. Now, we talk about all season long how terrible bullpens are. And we do. We talk, oh, shit, we get beat, because the bullpen did this and the bullpen did that and this guy did this and that, whatever. We get beat because the bullpens and they can't close games and they can't win and all that stuff, right? But that's why they win. And when the Phillies started using their bullpen the way that they did, and I think I forget what the guy's name is, begins with an E, his last name. It was a former starter. They moved him to the bullpen, and he kind of became the guy that kind of held things together back there, gave him another arm. Anyway, all of that stuff made a difference for the Phillies. And then their hitters got a little bit hot. So when they got a little bit hot, they scored some runs. They beat the Braves by scoring a bunch of runs, and that's what they did. They scored runs. Okay, well then you go face, dynamic starting pitching. Even Verlander got hit by them. So, but they couldn't hit Framber. I mean, Framber was just dynamite. He was awesome. And then they put in the bullpen, and then the bullpen just went bang, 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 bang. You couldn't score, and the difference is they don't have a bullpen that matched. So he's in a bad spot because he's in a spot where his bullpen's at a disadvantage to what Houston's is, and his starting pitcher maybe is one of the best starting pitchers in baseball. So what do? Do you ride him as long as you do, or do you use the bullpen? Well, that's the way today's game is. You bring in the bullpen, and you bring in a guy that throws 100 miles an hour, and he's a lefty versus a lefty, and you try to get outs, but it didn't work out. So I don't disregard what he did as an error. I think that it could have went either way. But either way, the hit could have happened. You mean Alvarez could have hit Wheeler that time. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter. The difference is that the Astros can hit the bullpen of the Phillies, and the Phillies couldn't. So and then you got to look at the defense, right? And then you got to say, okay, well, the Phillies defense wasn't quite as good as the Astros either. So, I think that the right team won. I think you could make some choices and decisions that maybe, I don't know. I think they made all the right choices, to be honest. I didn't think there was anything wrong with what any of them did. There was no glaring errors or mistakes. They're just not as good a team. And the truth of the matter is they're probably not the best team in the National League. They just got there because of certain things that happened and broke their way. And that's okay. That's kind of what it's about. So there's not a problem with having a hot team make it to the World Series. That's not an issue. But to sit here and think that they actually had a chance is a different story, because they really didn't have a chance. They were fighting uphill the whole way. And, a lot of times I would get on here and go, hey, look, you want the favorite to lose the first game so that the series favorite, so that then you can get them at a short price, right? And you can do that sort of with the Astros when they got behind 2-1, and then you can go, okay, shit, let's pile on and make some money because it's going to happen, right? I mean, this is the way it works.
And I'll close with, GMs and management. Hats off to the Astros. Hats off to Dusty Baker. I'm glad for him. Hats off to the GM that told Carlos Correa, go pound sand. We got a kid right here named Jeremy Pena who just wins the AL MVP in the playoffs, and then he wins the World Series. So I thought that was neat. And for me as a Red Sox, I had to watch Schwarber hit bomb after bomb after bomb, and I just look at the Red Sox and I just shake my head. He was a perfect Red Sox. I mean, because we knew JD was walking after this year. You could have just found a place for Schwarber at first base or plugged him in the outfield somewhere, and then he's your DH as long as you need him. And so I have to shake my head there. So I laughed there. All right. Slate tonight, as you said, there's 3 max. There is, I think it's 12 NBA games. There's some college hoops. There's some NHL. So I'm going to let you just take over from here. You can talk what you're seeing, what you've played, what you're leaning, and go from there.
Well, let's just do the football for a second because the MAC is the MAC is kind of a fun league to bet on, because from game to game, you typically do get some kind of consistency in these games. The issue that I run into a lot of times is how much better is one team than the other one in the MAC. So you got to watch and be a little bit careful there, because truthfully, a lot of these teams, one might be -7 or something, and then when they play, they lose by 10. And the reality is that in this conference, in this league, there's not a lot of separation amongst these kids. A lot of it has to do with how tenured they are and how tenured they are with the coach, and if there's a great quarterback or a great running back, or if one team's got a super defense or something like that. However, tonight I'm going to play the Northern Illinois Western Michigan game. And it's pukey, man. I mean, it's pukey. But having said that, you're looking at Northern Illinois right now. I think I'm going to go back to where the numbers are, make sure they're the same numbers. They're -1 as a consensus number right now. They were, I think they opened -1, then it went to a pick, and now they're -1 again. But let me share the reasons why I'm doing this. So You've heard me over the course of the years or conversations talk about there's 131 schools in college football, and they get graded. And, I'm a big EPA guy. So EPA margin wise, Northern Illinois is 79th. Okay, well, that's not very good. I mean, that's kind of bottom middle, right? But they're playing Western Michigan. Western Michigan, out of 130 schools, well, hell, they're 130th. They're dead damn last. So to me, Northern Illinois has got to be a little bit better. And I'm like, okay, well, let's look at their offense. How does the offense match up, right? So offense EPA for Northern Illinois ranks 42nd. That's actually pretty good. And they're going to hit the number 94 EPA defense for Western Michigan. And I'm like, okay, well, shit, something's got to give here. Why is this game a pick? Okay, well, Western Michigan, they rank 124th on offense. Only 6 teams worse on offense. Well, that's where Northern Illinois has got a problem. They rank 116. Okay, so maybe there's a little bit of give and take going on there. Maybe they can move the ball some. But I like the idea that Northern Illinois is a better football team and they're going to move the ball. What else happened here was you have net field possession, right? So field position I talked about earlier in the year matters. Every 5 yards equals a point. I mean, it just does. It matters. Net field position for Western Michigan, well, I said there's 130 schools. I guess there's 131 because they rank 131. I don't know how they rank 131 out of 130 schools, but that's how it is. They rank where they did dead lamb last in net field position. Net field position for Northern Illinois, they rank 72nd. So I like the idea here that there's shorter fields. It's easier opportunities for Northern Illinois. And then lastly, There's a term called echo rate or echo ratio, and I've seen this before, and I wanted to make sure that if I say this, that I explain it so that people understand. Echo ratio is named after a Navy fullback, and his name was Eckel. Okay, whatever. It's an alternative measure of ground control to time of possession, or game control to time of possession. The ratio is the number of quality possessions you earn relative to how many you allow, whereas the rate is often how often you get a quality possession. So in other words, how often do they get a quality possession and be able to move the ball? Okay, well, the echo rate for Western Michigan, you figure it's going to be kind of bad. Well, it's 129. That's pathetically bad. And for Northern Illinois, it's 77. Okay, so then I sit here and I go, where is the difference, right? So net points per drive, 89th for Northern Illinois, 124 for Western Michigan. So, okay, Western Michigan gets a home field edge. Maybe they get a couple points for that. But how does this game come out the way that it's listed as -1? I get it. Northern Illinois is not very good, and their quarterback, who has been one of their better quarterbacks in the past, he's not playing. So maybe that's why it's kind of down to where it's supposed to be. But I still think they're a better football team. I think they got a better defense. I think they got a better offense. I think they got better special teams, which means that they're going to have better field position. They got shorter ways to go. So I took Northern Illinois on the money line today. It was -113 when I played it. I don't know what it is now, but that's what I played them. I'm like, why do I got to try to cover 1 point? Who gives a shit? Let's just play it. Let's play it on the money line. So that was the one play that I played in the football games, because the other games, they're actually pretty close to where they're supposed to be, or at least in my opinion, they're pretty close. You know, Buffalo is a team that most of the public knows and likes, and they're playing Central Michigan today. But the matchup there, Buffalo's got a pretty big edge on just overall EPA. But when you match up the offense, they rank 73rd in passing against the 70th passing defense, and then 69th in rushing against the 61st defense. So they can actually stop them a little bit. And then when you look at it on the other side, Central Michigan ranks 80th passing, not very good, but Buffalo ranks 83rd on pass defense, so maybe they can move the ball that way. They're 99th rushing the football against Buffalo, who's 4th. Okay, well, they're not going to be able to run the ball, so maybe they can throw the ball all over them and keep this game pretty close. So I was like, okay, maybe that's about where it's supposed to be. I'm going to leave that one alone. And then this Kent State game, you know, everybody's been on Kent State because they played all those big giants at the beginning of the year, which is fine. That makes them tougher, makes them a little better. And Bowling Green was one of the worst teams, and now they've turned it around just a little bit. They're not as bad as, being the worst, but they're 118th in EPA margin, but Kent State's 100th. So what the hell difference is that? And then Bowling Green on defense ranks 37th. So, okay, they're pretty damn good. So I'm going to stay away from that one too. So I don't like either one of those two. And again, you're talking about MAC teams when they're all the second division school kids, and who in the hell knows who in the hell is going to show up and play tonight. But I do like Northern Illinois to at least just win the game. So that's my college football for tonight.
And I'm glad the way you worded it about that Buffalo Central Michigan. It opened a pick, and the public's taken Central Michigan to a -2 and 2.5. A funny Central Michigan story. This goes way, way back. I was a track rat and back in the day, and I had a pretty good, decent-sized bet on Central Michigan in a bowl game, and that was the game that they were up, I want to say like 42-7 the start of the fourth quarter, or 38-7, and I left, and because I'm waiting to count my monies, and then I'm an hour away from home, and I leave, and I get back home, and I found out they lost in overtime. I'm like, what do you mean they lost in overtime? And the other team came all the way back and tied it and beat them. And so Central Michigan, to this day, I don't like them, and my eyes went right to Buffalo. But it's kind of comical. It's probably, as you said, the MAC. Usually when there's a 2-game slate, there's 3 today, but when there's 2, you got a favorite, and one of the dogs wins outright. It's not just a cover, it's an outright, and one goes under, one goes over. And as I said this earlier today and yesterday, you got 3 games today. That will happen tonight, and the other game is the wild card. That's all.
Well, we'll see what happens. I'm hoping that Northern Illinois, the Huskies, I hope they do okay tonight. Who knows? I mean, it's the MAC, so I mean, anything can happen in the MAC, and I think that's why people like it. But a lot of times you're supposed to bet the big underdogs because they come out and actually outright win, and I get that. That's part of the fun. But there's no big underdogs tonight. I mean, those numbers I think are all within 2 or 1 or whatever the name numbers are. But it's weird. I mean, it's a weird conference, and they take on big boys. They like to play and get their money and do other stuff, and they travel well and all of that. So who knows? But NBA wise, I have 2 plays and then I added 1. So what if I told you, Jeff, that there was a game that opened? What was the opening number of this damn game? It was the opening number, I think, was 4. No, that's not the right game. It's there it is. Okay, so it opened with the favorite minus 7.5, got bet down to 6.5, and now is let me double check just to make sure. It is now minus 8.5. So it went down to 6.5, but now it's minus 8.5. It's an NBA game.
You're talking Dallas, Orlando?
Yeah. You know why? Because when you go to figure out these games, you can never bet these games without. And we did this last year, if I remember right. We talked about these games and who plays and what, and that matters in the NBA, for God's sakes. So they have Orlando has Cole Anthony, who's not playing. They have and I can't say this guy's name right. Paolo Banchero is not playing. They got Fultz out. They got Harris out. They got the other Harris out. They got Isaac out, and they got Wagner out. Okay, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 guys that aren't going to play. But when I went over and I'm like, okay, well, what does that exactly mean? Banchero, Wagner, and Anthony are 3 of the top 4 scorers on their team. 3 of the top 4. Okay, so the backup center is the only one who's going to be playing that's actually scored any points for this team. And I'm like, well, holy shit, that's not very good. So I went to go bet it, and I'm like, oh, damn it, they've already cut down to that. So it moved it fast. I bet it anyway. I bet it at minus 8.5. And if I remember right, last year when we were talking about these games, these are double-digit wins. These were 10-point, 12-point, 14-point, 16-point wins for these teams. So I went and I bet it. So I'm like, okay, well, whatever. I'm just going to do it. And this is why. And okay, we'll see what happens and see if Dallas actually shows up and wants to play tonight. And hopefully they do. And then cover that number. My original number on that game was my number was Dallas was going to win by 7.5 points. And the number and the line was 6.5 when I saw it. And I'm like, okay, well, that's only 1 point, so I'm probably not going to play that game. And then it went to 8.5, and I'm like, that's only 1 point. All those guys aren't going to play. Give me that damn Dallas team. I'll take them. So that's what I did. So then I played, and damn it, you know how this goes for me. I talk about this every year, and it just seems like it's every year it's the same goddamn team. I'm playing Cleveland tonight, and Cleveland's in Sacramento. And Sacramento is the team that just pisses me off to be on no team. They show up when I don't want them to show up, and when I try to support them, they're just like, okay, well, you shouldn't have bet on me. So I'm playing Cleveland, and the reason is Cleveland lost. So Cleveland lost their last game. It was kind of a tight game, and they lost. But I like them tonight. I have them as a double-digit favorite, even though, that's not kind of how the NBA works. Cleveland's playing their 3rd game in 4 nights. So that's not usually a good thing for them. But as I looked up that number when they're looking at where's Cleveland, they haven't been in that spot before. But Sacramento is only an average team at best when they come off of a day off. So they're off of a break. And then and when I looked at how they actually played, Cleveland was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 straight wins, and then I got a loss. And they lost by 2 points to the Clippers 2 nights ago. And when you start to look at what Sacramento's doing, they've played 1, 2, 3, 4 home games so far. They won once. They lost by 15 to Memphis. They lost by 7 to Portland. So I'm kind of liking the idea here that, you got a pretty good team in Cleveland. I think Cleveland can play this spot pretty well. The Cleveland just came off a loss. I don't expect them to have 2 back-to-back losses, and especially like a team like Sacramento. So I think they're going to win tonight. So I played that one. And then I played the last one that I played Memphis, and that's the only one that I think is reasonably close to what my number was. Memphis is playing San Antonio today on the road. They're -6.5. My number was 6. But when I went to kind of look at a couple of different things, one of the things that came up was Memphis. They're +8, so these guys haven't had a lot of this stuff yet. They're playing their 3rd game in 4 nights, but they're 8 points more efficient in the only one time that they played. So I liked that. And then what really I liked was San Antonio is playing their 5th game off of a 1-game rest, and they're 7 points less efficient. So I kind of liked the idea that, hey, if they're less efficient and Memphis is more efficient, I think they can cover that little extra that I had there as a difference. But wait till you hear these numbers. Let me get back to that spot on my computer here. And I will Memphis. Where'd they go? There they are. So if I tell you these numbers, this is kind of an interesting thing. Memphis has won 3 of their last 4 games, and San Antonio has lost 4 straight, right? So they lost 4 straight games. They lost on November the 2nd to Toronto, if you remember that one. That's when they gave up 143 goddamn points. They lost to the Clippers by 7. They lost to Denver by 25, and they just lost to Denver again by 6. So they're not doing real well in terms of covering points and staying close to games. And I do like the idea that Memphis is a better team and they're going to put on some numbers. So those are my plays today, Jeff.
Yeah, an extensive board. The one game that I was kind of looking at is Phoenix opened up 3-point favorites. Now Minnesota is 1.5 or 2. I assume you have maybe if in front of you is someone sitting on Phoenix, I would assume with that.
Well, here's what you got. You got John Butler. You got Jeremy Grant, Damian Lillard, Anthony Simmons, Justice Winslow, Keon Johnson, Nurkic or whoever it is. Those guys, what's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 guys, and 4 of those 5 guys, all starters, are all game time decisions that they might not play. And then you got Peyton out and you got Sarr out. So there's a lot of guys that what did I just say? Did I give you Portland? I gave you Portland. I gave you the wrong damn team. Phoenix is kind of the same way though. Crowder's out, Johnson's out, Chris Paul's out, Wainwright's out. So you're kind of looking at the backup group. But Ayton's playing, so I kind of like that. Booker's playing, so that's all good. So those 2 guys play, you got a good shot. But Minnesota is one of those teams that, man, playing at home, they're not terrible. If they can get it going between Russell Edwards and Towns, they can put up some points, even though Phoenix is a good defensive team.
And I'll just tell everyone watching and listening, the first, I think it was game 2 of the year, Lakers and Clippers, it was their home opener for both of them. Clippers were 5.5, 6-point favorites, and they blew out the Lakers. Well, this line opened at 4.5, is now 3. I'm just going to give everyone that's watching and listening here, look out for the Lakers. It's the first time I've said that all year. Maybe the last time too, but Lakers +3, maybe a little pizza and beer money on the money line there. Number smells to high heaven, should be higher than that. So keep an eye on the Lakers there. Earlier today that we had Andrew on, we went over the NHL schedule. short menu and tomorrow's the big day on Thursday. The hockey game to keep an eye on. Carolina opened up as basically a pick 'em, maybe plus 100 at Florida, who Florida was minus 115. It's flipped. So you can get Carolina right now minus 115 on the Vegas Strip. It's at minus 116 at Circa as we speak. A lot of these teams on back-to-backs. Andrew talked about Pittsburgh in a good spot at Washington here. I like Pittsburgh maybe to get to 4 on plus money on their team total there. I'll just say this. Montreal had Jake Allen in net last night, and the other side, the Red Wings, 0 for 6 on the power play, and Montreal won in the shootout. This is the game that Vancouver will score a ton. Keep an eye on Vancouver, maybe a puck line, maybe a team total there. And I can't say anything good about the Wild. They got my number. I'm just staying away, but they'll probably win by 30 tonight. So anyways, closing thoughts, sir.
Well, we are done with baseball for a little while. Hot Stove League's coming back here soon, but I'm guessing they're going to have to announce the MVPs and the Cy Youngs and all that stuff. And then, some of that stuff will start to happen. It's kind of an interesting time of year to see how teams do and what they do to get better. And then, now you got the NFL and college football. College football, believe it or not, we're getting down to the end of college football already. However that works out. It's interesting, the Alabamas of the world now have a couple losses, and whoever's going to be in the Final Four there to compete for the playoff and all that stuff would be kind of fun. And then hopefully there's good college football bowl game matchups to get interested in. And then it's all NBA and it's all college basketball. So I will turn the college basketball over to you, and I'll kind of keep an eye on the NBA. And I don't do much hockey, so I'll leave that alone too. So anyway, there we go.
Hot Stove League, I was talking earlier this week. I used to love that week where you just turned on MLB Network and you just stayed there and you got the goosebumps with the rumors, who's signing, who's going. Now it's just this long, drawn-out process. I'm going to wait till Scotty Webb signs so maybe I can get more money or use his contract as leverage. With that said, it's not a great year out there for me. It's, go sign Bogarts and maybe get Devers this year instead of waiting till the end of the year. I will tell you this, like I told everyone last night. If the Red Sox don't re-sign Bogarts, you can mark it down. He will be a St. Louis Cardinal. He will go to St. Louis and get a lot of money and hopefully win a World Series there. The Judge, where's he going? Hearing a lot of San Francisco, Scotty. Do you believe or not believe?
I don't know what I believe at this point because I don't know how. Here's what I don't know. What I don't know is he set the home run record and whatever for the American League last year, and he was the stir he was the straw that stirred the stick for New York. He carried them in a lot of games, but he's never done that before. He's never batted over 300 before. He's a guy that's made good contact, but I mean, he was a 260, 270 type hitter with power. So do they reward him for that season? Do they make him like a captain of the Yankees or whatever? Because that's kind of how he was acting and kind of how I think people think of him. And if that's the case, then nobody's going to sign him. He's going to sign with the Yankees if he's going to be, quote, the captain of the Yankees. But at the same time as that, he's kind of old. And I don't mean that disrespectfully to, I'm like, what is he, 28 now or something? 29? He's something like that.
I think he's even 30. Isn't he closer to 30?
He might be. I mean, he's old. So you're going to give a guy we're not talking about the Machados of the year when he signed and the Sotos and those guys. Those guys are young, right? I mean, those guys are super young. I'm going to Google, damn it, Judge's age. But
I think he's 30 going on 31.
He's old.
Because I compare that contract would be like an Albert Pujols type.
He's 30 years old. His birthday was April 26th. Mm-hmm. So shit, by the time next year starts, he'll be almost 31. So, what are you going to do? You're going to sign him for 4 or 5 years? Okay, great. But If you want to sign a guy for 7 to 10 years that's that old, good luck.
So what I would do, and I know he won't do it. I don't know who his agent is. I'd say here's what I'm going to do for you. Okay, I'm going to give you 45 per for 5 years. Okay, so that's 235. I'm not giving you a 7, 8, 9, 10-year deal. I'm not going to do it. But I'll give you 45 per, so I'll give you the guaranteed 235 for 5. And then you can walk after 3, 4, or 5 if you want. It's up to you. You have the option. But I'm not giving them an 8 or 9-year deal at 40 per. I'm not doing it. Thanks, but no.
Well, here's a little note. It says, after turning down a 7-year, $213 million extension earlier this season, Judge is expected to seek a deal worth at least $300 million. Cashman said he has no plans to meet in person with Judge's agent, Paige Odell, whoever the hell that is, during the GM meetings, which they're having now. But that was 19 hours ago, so that's pretty recent conversation. But if you're talking about $300 million for, say, 7 years or 6 years, holy shit, that's a lot of money, and I don't know that he's worth all that. I mean, he's a good player. Don't get me wrong, he's a good player, and if you put him on the right team with guys that can move the ball, they don't strike out all the goddamn time, then he's even more productive probably. But in the middle of the Yankees lineup, he's got to carry all of it because Stanton strikes out behind him, and then that goofy third baseman strikes out behind him, and Rizzo strikes out, and I mean it's like, okay, shit, somebody's got to get on base because they don't got a leadoff hitter either.
Couple game changers, couple guys out there that can be separators. Verlander, he's going to take a little time off in between, but listen, he was Cy Verlander. He's going to win the American League Cy Young. But DeGrom, does he decide to leave New York? Does he go somewhere else? I'm hearing the Rangers there, which again, that's where pitchers go to die. Trey Turner. Now, if the Sox don't sign Bogaerts, supposedly they're already talking to second basemen. You want to humor me and let Bogaerts go and go sign Trey Turner? I'll applaud you then, because he's a guy that can do so much for you. I'll take that move there. But there's a handful that you and I will be talking about. Come the first of the year, you start your write-up for the spring training report and all that good stuff. So we got a long, long way to go. But it's so good to have you back, Scotty. We'll come back Saturday. I have a UFC quick show with Zaid Hussein at 12:30. So if we want to do a morning show and give you the rest of the afternoon and evening off, fine. If you want to let the 12 o'clock games go and you want to come in around 1:30 and we can do the afternoon and evening slate, I'm fine with that as well. So
why don't we do a morning show and then we can hit them all and then be done.
You can have that. That's all.
That means I got to get up. No, I'm just kidding.
That's why I said you can wait till after the 12:30 show. It's only going to be a half hour. If you wanted to do a 1 to 2 and do the afternoon, it's your call.
It's all good. It's all good. I can do morning. I'll be up anyway.
And I was at the post office today. They said ETA Monday. I think it comes in maybe Saturday. Keep your eyes there. You will be a happy man. So
no, I can't wait for that.
I gave you 2 of the Primos, which we got a box of 10 for $300. And put it this way, he gave us a deal on that, and gave you a couple other samples from the island as well. So you got 4 lovelies coming your way. So you'll have a good time on those.
I'm gonna have a great Saturday if they show up Saturday, for God's sake.
Yeah, well, now that's right. Now I said Saturday, it'll be there on Monday as you're off to where. So, but anyways, it was great to have you back. To all the watchers, listeners, thank you guys. We got 6.5 weeks left of 2022. We then tiptoe into 2023. We got you covered morning, noon, and night. I'm locked and loaded here in Centerville, Mass, and Cape Cod as Massachusetts gets ready to launch. And we're talking to a lot of big people, potential apps, potential brick and mortars that will be up and running, some local radio, some national radio, and we're hoping to be on the national scene sooner than later. So Go follow Scotty at Webby20MLB. You can come follow me at EC Sports Invest. And you can always ask, follow, questions, emails at eastcoastsportsinvestors@gmail.com. We're here to educate, not entertain. We save that for that 4-letter word somewhere on your local dial station there, and that other station, Fox. So have a great night. Be smart, dabble here, dabble there. Don't push all in. We got a long way to go. So we will see you bright and early tomorrow.